Without the assistance of sympathetic allies and proactive accomplices, the Nazi regime could not have been nearly as successful in its attempts to exterminate Europe's Jews. Hitler's foreign policy successes throughout the 1930s and the seemingly unstoppable Nazi war machine were impressive. National Socialism appeared set to become the dominant ideology in a restructured Europe. However, sustaining this momentum as the war waged on proved difficult. The project of exterminating European Jewry was unprecedented. Though an extensive bureaucracy was organized to facilitate the same, the Reich's resources still remained finite. Nazi Germany found sympathetic allies and proactive accomplices within their expanding sphere of influence. Without the assistance of local agents, given the sparse time available before the war's close, the impact on the Jewish population could not have been as devastating. Assistance with Jewish annihilation had to be outsourced. To borrow from Daniel Goldhagen, willing executioners could be relied upon throughout the Nazi sphere. However, motivations did vary. France was defeated by the Germans in June 1940. The country was divided into two zones, an occupied north and a nominally independent south. Legislation titled the Statute of Jews was passed in two sections soon after, first in October 1940 and then in June 1941. The ordinance effectively excluded Jews from public life. Interestingly, no direct orders came from Berlin, which forced the Vichy regime in the south to implement these anti-Jewish measures. The Pétain government wished to comply preemptively with Nazi demands in the hope the French state could maintain independence. When active participation was required, state actors could be found to comply. René Bousquet, Secretary General of the Vichy Police, believed the autonomy of his department was paramount and the Germans should leave the job to the French. Bousquet pursued an expansion of his role within Vichy, collaborating with the Nazis to further this ambition. French police continued to assist deportations until January 1944. As stated by Philip Buren, without the cooperation of the police, the SS were paralyzed. There were simply insufficient German perpetrators to implement Jewish roundups and subsequent deportations, particularly so as the Eastern Front began to crumble. Croatia conformed to Nazism and its ideals comfortably. The Ustasha modeled itself on the successful example of German National Socialism. Artakovich, Minister of Internal Affairs, stated its goal was to solve the Jewish question in the same way as Nazi Germany. Enthusiastic Ustasha death squads targeted Jews in order to purify the newly born, independent state of Croatia. The action synced perfectly with Nazi racial goals. Under the direction of Ante Pavelic, Croatia was an excellent partner. With the Balkans' self-sufficient ideological program, the German war machine was available to march elsewhere. During the Second World War, Hungary presents us with an example of an opportunistic state. Concerns of Soviet occupation caused the Hungarian government to tilt towards Germany during the conflict. Socioeconomic security rather than racial hygiene theory motivated this bond. Prime Minister Miklós Kálay, in office March 1942 to March 1944, remained opposed to deporting the large Jewish population within his borders. Kálay further disgruntled the Germans by instigating an investigation into one of the large massacres which had occurred prior to him taking office. This is clear evidence that the Prime Minister's non-compliance to deportation demands were more than simple rhetoric. In fact, it took German occupation from March 19, 1944, in order to begin large-scale deportations of Hungarian Jews. Once an acceptable cooperative government was established, pro-German elites and the Hungarian police assisted in the final solution project. Prior to this decisive date, the Kálay government demonstrated that acquiescence to Nazi racial ideology could be withheld. So the question must be asked, placing yourself in any of these situations, what is it that you would have done? Many would like to place themselves as a heroic character of history. Regrettably, the historiography points this out as a very rare exception. It may have very well been that you were comfortable being in the bystander category, or even perhaps that your business did a little bit better without that market competition. Nevertheless, open collaboration, active participation, even silence and bystanding, though deeply complex phenomenons, undeniably assisted the destruction of Europe's Jews during the period of Nazi hegemony.